Good morning, everybody. I apologize. Facebook was acting weird this morning. And so I wanted to make sure that I had the orientation right. Otherwise, our Fun Friend Friday would have been a little freaky Fun Friend Friday. So sorry about that. And I think we're good to go. Yeah, looks like Andrea is here. And there's Joe and there's Lisa and everybody is piling in. Again, apologize for being late. Just sort of I'll teach as we go. So when I do Fun Friend Friday, I always like my phone to be this way and the guest's phone to be this way so that you get more of a side-by-side video as opposed to somebody shoved up in the corner. And so for some reason, my phone didn't want to change orientation, and so I had to start and restart. And anyhow, being flexible, that's what we do. So we're going to jump in here in a minute with Joe. I'm so excited, Joe. Does Lisa have like an assistant for note-taking? But anyhow, we'll jump in with Fun Friend Friday here in just a minute. What I do want to do is sort of do a recap. So yesterday, if you caught the Success Live, and again, this is Success Live. This is a Fun Friend Friday episode. My name is Eric Reed, and I guess I get to be your host today, and our guest gets to be Joe. But if you caught yesterday's, we were talking about gaining clarity and moving from the masculine to the feminine energy and having a balance of both with our goals and our dreams and our ambition. Good morning, Kip. Good morning, Julia. Good to have you guys jumping in for Fun Friend Friday. Gail's not here, so we won't drive the dog crazy. But as soon as she gets here, you know I'm doing that, you guys. Good morning, Charles, a previous Fun Friend Friday guest. And so in that dialogue or in those comments, you may have noticed that Jackie and I were sort of having a conversation, or I said, may I please step into coaching mode? I want to let you know that that is like coaching 000.1. It was not quite real coaching, but I wanted to sort of coach her in to gaining clarity on what she had said and what she had done. And so if you're kind of struggling, like, what did Eric mean? What does it look like? What should it sound like? What am I supposed to be working on? Go into yesterday's, go about midway down. You'll see that Jacqueline and I had started a conversation about what she wanted to accomplish and how we had gone from sort of an emotional state of, I want to feel this, I want to do this, I want to have this, the want statement. And then all the way down, it became at the bottom, I will be doing. And it became more of an action item. And the other day, I had the privilege of coaching a coach on how to form a coaching conversation, what a coaching conversation should look like. And I don't want to break the magic secret, but there's a formula that I follow through when I'm questioning and when I'm listening and when we're moving through something. And that's not a bad thing, because those formulas provide guidelines, they provide guardrails, they provide directional signals to keep us on track, because at the end of the day, this is all about accomplishing something new and big and different in our life. And so that's what it is when you enter into coaching, and you'll kind of see that conversation from down below. So I don't want to put off Fun Friend Friday any longer. See, I'm getting my seat. Oh, by the way, I now have a little podium here. It's because I kept having to like reach down here and it's getting uncomfortable, so now I feel very grown up. Like I have my podium, and I'll probably lean on it, and it'll fall to the floor, and then it'll be another show on itself. So good morning, everybody. We are going to begin Fun Friend Friday. Joe is my Fun Friend Friday guest, and as I do every time we do Fun Friend Friday, yes, I'm getting really good at doing it fast Fun Friend Friday. I kind of give you the little how to do it, because I'm going to encourage you to go out and do this yourself. Have a conversation with somebody that inspires, that encourages, that educates, that transforms your life, or make it 50 and 50, teaser alert, and use your Facebook Live medium. You don't have to go public. You can go private. You can go small group. You can go into a networking or a small chat group and do the same thing. So step one, make sure your phone is in landscape or in long way, triple F. Yes, Chelsea. And this is a kid that had a speech problem when he was little. I still do. That's just gone the other way. Make sure your guests is in side mode. I always encourage my guests to be plugged in, be powered up, not be on a laptop, because laptop and Facebook and phones don't seem to work. Always be powered up, because for some reason, Facebook Live and Facebook Live sharing drains the batteries. Good morning, Miss Cindy. Happy Fun Friend Friday. And I'm waiting for Gail. I want to do it live. So, Joe, I'm just going to warn you if Gail jumps in, I'm going for the Fun Friend Friday long sound to drive her dog crazy. And then you just reach up, you find the person in your group, and it says, bring Joe on to camera. Now, Joe's getting this little message saying, do you want to come? 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 And why he's coming, let me tell you a little bit about my friend Joe. So I had the privilege of meeting Joe just before I left for Uruguay through our mutual friend Lisa, who is now his wife. Not going to say anything about how that all happened because that was a shocker. No, kidding, Lisa. And what I love about Joe is an analytical. Joe is a thinker. Joe is a seer. Hey, Joe, there he is. We're talking about you over on this side. But what Joe is, I kind of think of Joe as like a clarity maker. He's the guy that comes in, he's like, sees all of the chaos and confusion and just is able to like drill straight through and then find the good things. So aside from probably being the guy that can find everybody's lost car keys, why don't you tell us a little bit about Joe? Good morning, Stacy.
Well, Joe started out in a little town. I don't know if you were raised on 32866 half chord in Warren, Michigan. We certainly have a lot of commonalities. I almost thought I was living at Paul Martinelli's residence for a while there.
Oh. If you don't know Paul, everybody, Paul tells this story about, I don't know, he had to borrow neighbor's shoes to go to school kind of thing. And so you grew up in Michigan.
Yes.
Married a woman from Wisconsin. And you have to do the Wisconsin, the nasal sound. Wisconsin. And then somehow ended up in Florida.
Well, it was really a dream. It was, after 50 years in the cold, polar vortexes, one after another. And I kid you not, I was working at Lambeau Field, and it was 100, excuse me, not 100. What am I saying? It was 0 was the high, and the wind chill was like 20 or 30 below. We're selling hot dogs and beer.
I would be putting hot dogs in my pocket. For those of you who have never ventured north of the Mason-Dixon line, 0 is below freezing, and wind chill of -20 basically says any exposed skin, just call it dead, because it's been dehydrated and frozen like some kind of packaged meat at Kroger. And yeah, I grew up in that in Minnesota, and actually, Duluth and Fargo and Moorhead. So you began John Maxwell 4 years ago?
Actually, coming up on 6 years ago.
6 years ago.
What
took you into it, and then what is it that's kept you in? Good morning, Tracy.
Well, I started, actually, it was a end of a banking career. You come into the office and hear your position's been eliminated after you've been working for the last year and a half trying to put in a new framework, and you said, well, at least I should be good for a couple of years before they let me go. Well, that dream ended. and really just realizing after I left the void that was in my life for the last 2 years prior to that, because I wasn't investing in myself. I was just into the job. Everything was for the job. And my health started failing, and just all those things, that pressures and just going to work and trying to find a few hours out of the day that you could sleep, and eat, and come home exhausted, get up the next morning, and just keep repeating this process. And that void just left me with this longing for something else, and really a month of time just sitting there looking at, I don't know, the screen, looking at outside, looking around, walking, trying to figure out what was the next chapter. And just prior to that point, I was at the Toastmasters convention, and John Maxwell got the Golden Gavel Award. And he spent 2 hours normally the speakers there give it maybe 20 minutes to 30-minute talk after they accept the award. He gave 2 hours, and then he was out after, he was walking through the crowd and just making it like Papa John was there, and no, not the pizza.
Just say, careful.
Yeah. But just feeling like granddad or father, depending on what your age was, just being kind and just being so filled in that room and hearing from him how he felt Toastmasters was just in line with what he was, what he valued, what he was aiming to put across the world. And he could see himself and see how Toastmasters aligned. And then a month later had a call for Toastmasters, an extra lesson because he just wanted to give so much back. And of course, sign up people for the team. And that's where really I signed up and said, yes, this is the right point. This is the right time. And probably, what was it? Probably a year earlier, when they were announcing the founder circle and getting that team ramped up, I actually received that information. So it was already planting the seed at that point.
I think there's a couple things I want to point out because you're normally the clarity master that helps. So I'm going to try and take over your role a little today. Is Joe had said that his health was failing, his relationships were failing, but because he had sort of tunnel visioned in on the project of the day, the job requirement of the moment, and he was focused in on that, he kind of ignored it and set it aside and didn't really give it its due respect. And then as soon as that big rock was moved out of his way by the banking boss, suddenly he looked around and he was like, wait a minute, I have nothing else to fall back on, to move into, to sustain me, to passion me. And so I think often we all end up, and I love the foreshadowing that you were actually invited a year before the big trauma. But you thought, no, I've got this. I'm good. I'm set. I've got this job. I finished a project. I'll be good for 2 or 3 years. I don't need to invest in myself or my career. That can happen later. And I think we all do that. We keep kicking the can down the road, so to speak, thinking everything is fine and good. I think it was interesting 2, 3 weeks ago, we had Ed Reed, and he talked about waking up and having a stinging pain through his heart and his arm. And he was like, wake up call. You had your wake-up call in the banking industry telling you, you're great, but we can find a machine. How, as a coach, what are the foreshadowing or the road signs that you often see that people are avoiding during that wake-up call moments?
I'm just thinking about putting your finger into a socket, it's that type of jolt.
Amen. Sometimes it would be more pleasant for it to go that way.
Yeah. Well, as I coach clients and some of these are executive directors of nonprofits and they're trying to put something together and they're looking at their board of directors and the board kind of directs them and they have to execute, right? The point of it. And they're still seeing boards that don't get together, they have different agendas, they don't necessarily have the right ideas about investing in the team, and the team is small, right? No nonprofit, we got to keep the staff small. And so everybody's doing, 3 times the jobs, the responsibilities, the duties, and going there, going here, and really failing because not enough focus or not enough ability to say, in this moment, this is what I need to focus in on, because they're being pulled or being, have to talk. That I was talking with one director of a nonprofit that was a global reach, and they have offices across the world, and she has to get up, and she's on the West Coast, so everybody's East Coast or where you were previously, Eric, even earlier than East Coast, and they're already put in half a day before she gets up and gets into the office and trying to catch up, and she breathes around 2 o'clock in the afternoon her time, and East Coast is already gone, left for the day. So we find ourselves in this moment of hurry, hurry. Everything's pants on fire. To the old song that went
I
around
love
with Brett
that.
Favre, the Packers. Things are just on fire. I remember in my job too. It's just like you roll, 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 roll. Whoever's stopping by and conversations and especially in the middle of a big project, it's just you don't have time to think. And what happens? Something goes awry, and then suddenly it's hitting that freight train, getting that car to be smashed by the freight train because you didn't see something coming out of your side vision and plowing into you, and you're stopped, and it's like bewilderment.
I have to agree. I often see in corporate and when I work with corporate or team clients that they're kind of always in this react mode, and it's always the shortest, quickest jab that they can get in just to respond or, to body block or to keep, from going down. And after a while, that jab, jab, jab becomes exhausting, not only for the recipient, but for the deliverer. And we get in this, well, I'm just going to react. I'm going to react. I'm going to react. I'm going to react. And you never get to process and plan and develop. And, as I teach with CORE, you have to know your organization, you have to know your resources, but you have to know your execution method. And if
Yes.
you're doing it from this, you're not thinking of how you're going to execute. You're going to think of how I'm going to respond with the least amount of energy to get through the process in front of me to get to the next response. And so I think you're right. We get in this mode and we never see the freight train coming behind us that's like, you know what, if you had all just stopped long enough to look, there was a bigger problem to the left or a bigger problem to the right that you should have been focused on. There's Lisa. She's trying.
Love it, love it.
No, actually,
Great.
what I just realized is Joe is signed on as Lisa, and he's doing it with his right hand.
I'm
Sorry, got to
feeding her
give
the
Lisa crap.
information. Quick,
Otherwise, it
type it
wouldn't
up.
be a day. So,
So let me
so
just
when you
bring
walk
this
into
to.
a company and you see that jab, jab, response,
Yep.
response, react, react mode, how do you bring them down to like, okay, we all need to stop and change the behavior?
Imagine telling somebody to breathe, to pause, to reflect in the middle of a corporate environment. Oh, just stop, just hold, just stay in place. And I think one of the things that, I've listened to you talk about, Eric, and we've gone through some of the programs that you had earlier in the year, walking through this idea of where we're going, what we're trying to accomplish. And I think that helps, especially it helped my team when I was in banking. Where are we going? Let's look back at that goal. Let's just sit here for a few minutes and just say, okay, this is what we are trying to accomplish, and where are we now? So taking that assessment of where we're at that right now at this destination, at this departure point, and then what are we still yet trying to accomplish? And filling in that gap and just pausing. And it's amazing how much we want to override in that conversation when we got to still do this. I don't got time. It's like, sit.
I
Two
think
minutes.
you bring up a great point. It was funny because, again, yesterday I was on a coaching call with somebody, and part of the process is what is the goal? We explore all of the past possibilities, all the current. We look at our options, we make a decision, and then we move into action and accountability. Well, I had gotten to the decision point, and they said, yeah, okay, but I'm like, okay, you haven't really made a decision. We've reached an agreement, but until I can get a yes, period, or no, period, you haven't fully bought in. And I think often in teams and in corporate America, we think just because everybody's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. If you tune in deep, that sounds like a good idea is not somebody buying in. That's somebody just going along to move it along. And then everybody gets up and leaves the room and nobody is bought in. And so you think you've set the vision, the goal, the mission, the plan, but everybody's like, yeah, that was a good idea. And they go back to what they were doing. So yeah, I like that you have to get like all the way back to that bottom line, to that decision-making point. But I think often as team leaders, as coaches, that we think we have buy-in. We project that we have buy-in because we've done all this heavy work and moving the group into this common belief, myth, vision, statement thing. But we really never listen deep enough to hear if we have true buy-in. Like recently, a hung jury. It was like, no, you can't get that last guy to buy in. And until you can get that last guy to buy into one way or the other, we don't have a decision. We don't have a place to take action from. So I think you're right that often in corporate world, we set up false buy-ins or we work from false buy-ins and then expect it to work, and then it falls apart and you come back and you keep recycling. It becomes a nightmare.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of an eloquent way of saying, but it becomes a nightmare in corporate America.
It's like I was a part of the emergency response team for whenever we had a data breach or some problem in a branch, and it's like, get on the call. What's going on? Who didn't think of what? And why are we talking about this today? Didn't we just resolve a data breach, a couple months ago? Why do we have another one? Or why does, whatever the issue was, why is it coming up now? And why didn't we see it? I like when we were talking on the Thought Leaders Mastermind with Paul Gustafson. I'm part of that group, and we talk on a book a month, and we were talking with, I think it was Dan Pink, and talking about a pre-mortem and how many organizations go and spend the time to do a pre-mortem before they even take one step forward in executing. Envisioning in pre-mortem, envisioning what's going to happen, and then be prepared for what are the responses, what do we need to do if that was to come to pass.
Well, I know you and I had shared Y2K stories, and for the young kids, that was like 19 years ago, that the whole world was supposed to end at midnight on December 31st when the bits became bit, and all of that. And I worked in the IT industry, and I was in charge of reservation systems that spanned the globe. And we had diagrammed out probably as tall as this wall, if this, then this, if this, then this, then this, then this, and what is the backup and contingency plans. And we had like stacks and stacks of notebooks. I remember that the corporate office where I was bunkered, literally bunkered into, had bought us like cases of bottled water and soup and ready to eat meals. And I mean, it was like the apocalypse was coming all over this Y2K thing. And in hindsight, it was funny. But in foresight, it was like, yeah, we could be, literally, we had cots and everything. We could be here for 4 or 5 days having to resolve this issue. Had we thought of everything that could possibly be needed? Now, I don't want people to hear that like you can't move until you have all the options weighed out. But sometimes you have to think, okay, what's my plan B? Like, what is my plan B? Like, plan A, great, hope it works. But what's the plan B? And maybe C. You don't have to go all the way to the extent of Z sometimes. But I like the term, the or pre-mortem. I like that. What's it going to look like? What's it going to look like before this whole thing dies, and how do we get it back on track, get it in the right direction, move it into the right focus? I'm using that. I'm stealing that, just so you know, Joe. What is your pre-mortem? What's it going to look like just before it goes wrong so that we can make sure that we're in tune with that?
Yeah, it's really doing the walkthrough and just envisioning each step and then saying, what do we intend? What are the possibilities that something will go different than what we planned? What are the pivots that we're going to do to get it back on path?
Perfect. And Lisa, you have to put that word pre-mortem. Yeah, go ahead and Google it if you need. But what I will say is often in a coaching session, somebody will make a decision and then plan an action. And part of my job as a coach is to say, okay, if you're not able to execute it in the way that we've discussed, what do you think might happen? What do you think might stop you from executing? What might be some of the barriers that you foresee? And then, okay, what do we have as planned as a workaround? So even in coaching, we use that idea of a pre-mortem. Like before we say, I'm going to go to the gym every day, is there a chance that you might not? What is our turn back? What is our get back on track moment? So yeah, I think we all need to start planning a little more pre-mortem thinking, because what I see, and you probably see it as well, is people will get all excited and they'll start down the track, and day 3 they can't get to the gym because there's a snowdrift 20-foot high in front of them. And so they mark that as a failure because they haven't figured out that what's our workaround, what's our sidestep, what's our grace point, and how do we execute on it?
And it works that way in relationships too, Eric. We don't
Says
really
the
think
newly
about,
married man of what, 2 months?
yeah, this is my tree. This is tree.
Oh, that's right, the wedding tree that you have to prune it daily.
Yes. So it's really grown in the 11 weeks that we've had it. It's really send out these shoots. They weren't there. And, I got to think about how to trim this thing back so that it isn't like this humongous thing in a year.
Now bring the tree back, because I'm a little concerned here. Why is one side looking really healthy and the other side looks like it's lagging on its growth chart?
No. This is all good. This is all good.
Lisa's like, that's
This
my
is our
side.
relationship. This is our relationship, Eric. Lisa and
Oh, okay.
mine.
I'm
As
not
long
going
as
to
this
ask
thing's
what is the
going, we'll
healthy,
do it.
vibrant, vigorous side, and what is the slow and growing side.
I don't know if you can see this. It says dream.
I love that. So I like that idea that you have. And it was funny because I was on a coaching call. I don't mean to always reference coaching calls, but that's a big part of my life. And I was asking a couple, I said, what is a dream you have? And he was able to state his, and she was able to state hers. And I'm like, no, together. And they were like, mm. I'm like, okay, what goal do you guys have right now together? Mm. Like, what is something that only the two of you meet on, just the two of you? I don't care if it's wallpapering the bathroom. What is a goal that you two share? Because that's where communication happens. That's where compromise happens. That's where growth happens. And so often it's like, yeah, I support my wife in her dream and she supports me. And I'm like, yeah, but so you guys have the tree as your common meeting place and
Yes.
discussion point.
And not only our common, but also God in there, because if you look at this tree, wouldn't be where it's at if God wasn't involved in it. We wouldn't be where we're at if God wasn't in our lives and helping us to forge a path forward.
Go ahead, Lisa. You can do an aw or toss up a heart or two. I will have to say, and this is a side note, then we move to the Fun Friend Friday part. She wears a lot more sparkly makeup now that she's married. Has anybody else noticed? She's got like the glitter glow kind of makeup going more now that she's married. I don't know if it's left over from the wedding or it's just the afterglow of the wedding, but just an observation. Just gonna give you a thumbs up on the sparkly makeup, Joe. Maybe guy to guy, if you wake up one morning and it's not there, you might want to reflect on the last 24 hours and what you might or might not have done.
Yep. Get that post-mortem out.
Get that, like, Lisa's not wearing the sparkly makeup and she doesn't have the flu. Something's up. I need to check in. So, welcome everybody. This is the Fun Friend Friday part of our Fun Friend Friday. Gail didn't make it, but she'll get that stuck in her replay. So for those of you who haven't been here on Fun Friend Friday, this is the part where I get to ask our guest to give us a brief teaching on a leadership word, a thought word. I call them guidepost words in my life. And so they look a lot like, see how much easier it is now that I have my little desk. They look like influence, growth, desire, consistency, legacy, things like that. And yes, I noticed they were backwards, but that's okay. we have a solution for that. Because my friend and your friend, Mr. Joe, get to pick from an envelope. And no, I didn't do the magic rainbow unicorn thing. Good Lord, how much time do you think I have? I got a 9 and an 8-year-old. I was doing
What?
Native American studies and basic math last night. And whoever changed all the math words really should have taught us parents. I know there's a parent guide out there. I need to go find it because they were asking me to like do expansion math. And I'm like, so I just wrote the numbers bigger, but that's not what it means. I had to like Google it, like what is expansion math, 3rd grade. And whew, we made it through, I think. So Joe gets to pick from one of our Fun Friend Friday envelopes. We have rainbow, orange star, blue diamond, green clover, and they still fall on the floor. Pink heart, red balloon, and yellow moon. Give me just a minute while you think, Joe.
Well, I was going to put it back to the group. You know, good leaders delegate these decisions. So I want to hear
Well,
from
what
the group.
is weighing in, or the group is casting their vote. And Marie, you know, cast your vote. What I did also learn is you can't play more than 15 seconds of the song or YouTube will cut you out. So time for our theme song. And weigh in your vote. What is Joe supposed to use? The which color, which card, which envelope should he be picking from? So we got rainbow, we got moon. Lisa hasn't weighed in, but then we don't have silver sparkle as an option.
She's got shine bright like a diamond.
Oh, color of the future bright. We've got moon. Oh, Peggy's here.
Got
hey,
heart.
Peggy. Hey, Rajan. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. So keep voting, you guys. I don't know how you sneeze on live camera. I haven't been to that part of the school yet. Marie says, heart. There we go. That's how you do it. You go way over here and they just get to see the pretty backdrop. Barbara says rainbow. So go ahead and pick one, Joe.
Well, I think I'm going to have to side with somebody because, you know, I like her and she's got good influence on me. So we're going to go with the diamond.
Good deal. Just keep talking about it because I think there's another sneeze coming. Oh. So do you call her your wife or your treehouse partner?
Oh.
She's my arborist.
Yeah. No, she's got many titles.
She does. Besides, oh, who rules my day?
Yes. Oh, wonderful one.
We are really good at nicknames in our house, especially with our kids. So it's like, hey, Monkey Toe, and he's like, what? So feel free to. So, I have to do this in the spirit of Steve Harvey, because if I open it and you can't see it, you don't trust me, because that's the kind of group we are, right? So you picked blue diamond, and your word is sacrifice.
Woo!
As the newly married man will have to teach on the word sacrifice. Maybe I should caveat it with, what have you learned about sacrifice pre-marriage versus post-marriage? And it's not a negative word, just so everybody is precautioned.
Well, that's a great question, and it has multiple little branches. Yeah, let's call them branches. Wow, they got feelers, you know. We have some bugs down here in Florida that are just like, grah!
Yeah, the palmetto bugs that are that big.
Yeah. Ugh. Anyways, sacrifice to me talks about an impact, and it's about foreshadowing something that you want to get and giving up something that no longer you need. And I look at this, probably this point, this whole last 5, 6 years of give me a different insight into sacrifice. And before it was really, okay, I'll give up something. I'll give up chocolate for Lent, or I'll give up something that isn't too meaningful, but I can come back to it afterwards. You know, it's I'll give up uh, cherry pie for a week, yeah, or whatever. You know, I'll give up something. I'll give up holding my breath, you know, to get out of a tantrum. Whatever, you know, it was just more a child perspective of giving up something, and getting a reward in as a result, immediate reward. And now, as I've gone through this point of burying myself in his job and having health issues, even this year at the beginning of the year, I was in the ER, and I didn't know this, but I was at like 230 over 150 or something. I was in stroke level, and they were saying, do you have a headache or anything? No, I'm feeling fine.
We were just talking about the wedding budget.
Yeah. And it's really about, so in sacrifice, it's about giving up to grow up, as we learned from John Maxwell. Uh, and it's about changing the perspective as to what you want to, what do you want to achieve? What do you want as a goal? What do you want as a dream? And finding out the things in your life that you want to trim out because they no longer serve you. Beliefs, thoughts, actions, habits, opinions, perspectives. There's a number of things, voices in our head that have spoken to us over the years and really don't understand where we're going or don't understand what we're trying to achieve. And yet they have an opinion, and those weigh in on us because we love those people, or we honor them and want, we hold them dear. And it could be our internal voices. It could be somebody near us. It could be somebody we meet, and they just don't understand that perspective of us, what's going on in our mind, and what we're trying to achieve, and what we're looking at, and what we're bringing together. And I think marriage is a great point because we come together, and we bring the best, but there's some things that will annoy Lisa, or vice versa, and so we try to work on those to eliminate them from our path so that we can have a better relationship. We can go towards a better place of being united and find a bigger dream, a bigger adventure. Lisa loves to say, live the adventure you dream. And I really like that. And it's a great perspective of living. And as a result, because you're living, certain things don't matter anymore because you're going towards a higher goal.
I like that. I agree. I think when we're little, we think of sacrifice as being taken away from us. Like, okay, if you had a choice, M&Ms or Reese's cups, which are you willing to sacrifice for Lent? And I think you're wonderful in pointing out that when I move into sacrifice, I realize that what I may have to do, the action I may have to perform, the change that may have to happen is necessary for the bigger dream that I have. And I mean, if you're a person of faith and you think of the ultimate sacrifice, it was like, look, this is going to hurt. This is going to be painful. This is going to be death to self, but it's going to be life to something bigger. And so I agree. I think often we have to take that perspective that this may be a little death of something or a process or whatever for the bigger life. And I agree, in marriage, now 21 years into it, don't even ask me how. I say the biggest lesson, the best transformation for us was when we were down to one car, because living in Uruguay, you had to always be thinking of like, okay, what do they need? What does the bigger family need? What is the goal for today? Is it me just being able to run out to the gym, or us getting grocery shopping and school supplies and kids picked up? And then how do I have to decide to manage my needs in perspective of the bigger needs? And what am I willing to say, you know what, today this isn't about me, it's about the bigger need. So we could ask Lisa to weigh in. Is are you meeting all of her expectations, or are you on track for your goal as a husband? And we sit in
Well,
silence and fear.
yeah, we're in a work in progress, you know.
Never stop, never stop. And I always counsel families and couples. One, men, listen and tune in. If you take nothing else, learn the lesson of only saying, what I hear you saying, dear, is. And you repeat exactly what she said. You don't add, you don't track, take away, you don't process, you don't input. You just, what I hear you saying, dear, is. Because 95% of the time, they just want to be heard. They don't want to be understood. They don't want to be analyzed. They don't want to be fixed. My natural tendency is to try and fix things. So I'm like, yeah, I heard what you said, but have you tried? Whew, major blow up. Major blow up on that. So what I heard you saying, dear, is. And the second one is, yep, I think you're right. He meets
And I
most
think
of my expectations, and those aren't met. And those that aren't met, well, on the way to being fully met.
nice,
See, look
beautiful.
at the
Thanks.
glow. You don't even have to wear sparkling makeup when she says things like that.
Well, and it makes an impact. And I, you know, as we're talking, I just love when I'm in this mode of being able to share thoughts and they just spark in, you know, and get that divine moment of, you know, inspiration of wisdom. And I'm looking at this word. It was from someone else. They broke down the word impact. And
Mm,
I think there's a couple pieces in here that, let me just quickly, they had a word for each part, each letter. So influence for impact. And, you know, you can't move forward if you're going to, I've been working with a client, she wants to have greater influence. Well, it starts with greater connection and,
okay.
and, and being able to build bridges, build commonalities, and finding where that person's value is and how you can honor that and respect it and come together towards a greater thing. So whatever that dream is, you know, when we're talking about a marriage, is about coming together and creating something beautiful so that there's a legacy and, you know, at the end and something of value greater than when you came together. So influence is a key part. And they talk about methodology, and I think it's more about the practices. It's more about the habits, the process of how you're going to communicate, the process of how you're going to resolve conflict, like Lisa when she points out things that I didn't do so well. And I honor that because I want to work on that. I want to be more effective as a husband, as a partner, as
She just has a special sticky pad she writes them on and posts in a secret place.
oh, that brings me to another point. When we were first dating, she spent, I don't know, half an hour or whatever it was, making little notes with, like in the freezer, she put in, "You melt me," and with a little
Oh,
snowman.
God.
Oh, it was beautiful. I wasn't expecting all these notes. It was a treasure hunt to find where all she had put all these notes. And, you know,
Did you keep the
did that
notes?
help me? Yeah.
Oops.
Anyways, product. So talking about, persistence. When you're talking about impact, there's a persistence factor. There's a perseverance, and walking through those. If you give up, you're not going to get through that barrier towards the goal. You're not going to get over the gap. You're not going to cross the bridge unless you're persistent, unless you're persevering through the finish line. And if we look
Okay.
at today and say, "Oh, I accomplished my goal. I'm done." It's taking your eye off of the bigger goal, the one that brings greater value. When I was in Guatemala, it was and being there with John Maxwell's team and the coaches and seeing the people and talking with them and walking through listening and through values of or excuse me the value of listening and the law of modeling and just seeing that in their eyes how they open up and say, wow, if I persisted, if I persevered towards that, my life would be this. And it meant change in a child. It meant change in the street. It meant change in the community. And as a result, you need advisors. A's advisors. A's is talking about that inner circle, those people that you can really truly talk in a confidential manner and walk through things with them and help you think about it, but help you grow, challenge yourself to grow to a new level, to a new understanding.
I like that.
C is community. You really need that team, and this is one of the things I point out when I'm dealing with or working with clients and businesses is what's the team look like? What's the culture? What is the collaboration? We talk about 2020. We need to have greater collaboration as one of the skills, and yet we're failing on that over and over and over again. We got to learn from it. We can't just put it out there as a silver bullet. We really need to get back to our idea. It may be overused, but a tribe of people that are close to us that we want to work with, that we hold a common value, a common goal, a commonality of greatness that we want to achieve and carry on and inspire and deliver to those that come after us. I think about this. Paul Gustafson gave me this idea, but it's in that race where you're passing off the baton from one leg to the next. Are you prepared to take on that baton, carry it for your distance, and pass it on to the next generation,
And
to the
T
next
is,
person?
sorry, I'm
Paul
looking for a
Gustafson.
book over here. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, Leaders Press On is the book.
That's what I was. I knew I had heard that somewhere. Okay. That.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was like, I know, I heard it.
Paul and I got to know each other in a couple ways. One, we were on the bus to the presidential palace together, so we got to talk. It was a long bus ride.
Name dropper.
Yeah, and we've worked together on the leadership awards for a couple of years together, uh, and I value him as a friend. And I watched his journey as he wrote that book from the first draft to the final and the revisions and helping him on his Audible version. And so I've been able to see his transformation. And as a result, that's that community. If we're coming together to help each other towards a greater point, we're going to have an impact. We're going to have an influence. We're going to change the world because we're coming together to do it.
We got
And finally,
sidetracked.
T.
You didn't do T.
Yeah, I'm getting to T. I'll
Oh,
finish
sorry.
up T here.
My
No
spelling,
problem.
my spelling head was like, is there another letter?
Well, you could be like, from the southern side of Detroit and just say impact.
Impact. I was like, no, wait, there's more letters, but I think it ends with T, doesn't it? It doesn't have an E on the end.
I got a great story on that. I probably won't, I better not share it because I've got to protect the innocent. But people in Washington, D.C. are afraid of people from Detroit.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Anyways, T is really tracking. It's the record. It's the focus, and it's also teaching. I look at it as being able to share, taking the fact that you know something, you've experienced something, and you need to share it with another because that person is waiting for it. Someone out there is waiting for your experience, for to be inspired by you, to be taking that lesson and saying, "Wow, I thought he didn't have any problems, and look, he overcome or she overcame these things, and I'm going through that point right now, and I can take something away to help me when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling dark, that somebody else did climb through that, you know,
Yeah.
passed
I,
through that dream."
I have to agree on that, that so often, I say we only see the snapshot, the little 8 by 10 of people's lives, but really we live as a movie. In my case, we live as a DVD. There's this whole long story, and just because Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest are really good at snapshot moments, that's not the whole story. And if we slow down and want to make an impact, we have to be willing to connect and communicate and stay engaged with people, not from where we want them to be, but where they're at and where we're at. So I like that. And I hope Lisa got it all, but I know you'll go back and edit it for her. Um, I'm sure you've done the 5 languages of love between the two of you. So,
Yes.
as a side note, if you haven't done it, go online, Google 5 languages of love, free test. What I learned through that is my giving language is not my receiving language. And often my giving language is not my partner's receiving language. And so it's a real frustration point for some couples because they're like, I'm giving all this love and I get nothing back. Well, it's like they're not receiving it. And it's not because they're being cold or bitter or shielded. It's just like, wait, I speak English and you hear Spanish. You don't understand what I'm saying, what I'm sending, and until I change my giving language, because they don't have to change their receiving language, my message, my love isn't going to connect. So I can clearly see that your giving or your receiving language is words of affirmation.
Yeah, I think so.
And I would think that Lisa's is acts of kindness.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And once
But
you
at one
know
point,
that, and it's not manipulating, but if you want to express something to somebody, then you need to be able to say, wait, I know what will make her day delight, an act of kindness. So I'll stop by and drop off her lunch because she typically takes it at 12 o'clock. So I'll pull in at 11:45 with a packed lunch for her. And that's like, oh my gosh. And I'm on the other hand, like, yeah, well, whatever, because that's not my language. So if you're starting in a relationship, if you're in a relationship, if you're changing your relationship, I would just know it. Just know what your language is, what your giving language, what your receiving language is. Convince the other person to do the same. Don't judge it. Just gain awareness of it. Well, Joe, I have to say, this has been a fabulous Fun Friend Friday. You've done so much. I'm probably going to have to spend like another 2 hours going back and looking into it. Lisa, did we get all the high points? Thumbs up, happy faces, smileys, whatever you choose to use. Good morning, Bradley. Good to see you. I see a couple people jumped in after we get started, and I didn't want to interrupt Joe. So to all of you, I'll check in at the end of this and say hi. But again, thank you guys, everybody, for jumping in and sharing this morning and sharing time with Joe. That's how I got a pumpkin spice latte. See, Lisa, you and I could have been, but then you picked Joe, and I'm just saying, I knew your language. I didn't even have to take the test. So you got her the first day of pumpkin spice latte. Oh, you're so sweet. By the way, I don't like pumpkin spice latte. Plain
well,
iced coffee.
gingerbread. Yeah, gingerbread is
Gingerbread,
more.
whatever. Both of those are nasty to me. Don't mess with coffee. And even French vanilla is too far. Good morning, Diane Dick. It's wonderful to have you here. Y'all, just a shout out to my friend Diane. She has adopted the logo or the slogan or the mantra or the today's the day. And I love the way she decided that, you know what, it's a simple phrase, but I'm going to make a big impact using it, as Joe has taught us. And so today's the day. Today's the day. Today is the day. See, Diane, I checked it. I learned it. I listened into it. Take a moment and just write that out and look at it in your journal. Put it at the top of your journal page and just ask yourself, today's the day. And what is that going to mean to you, and how are you going to use that phrase to impact your life? And if you don't know, jump over and check Diane out. She'll help you through it. Second note, what are you working on? What are your projects? What are you putting forth into the universe that we have to connect to you with?
Well, I was working on feverishly until 2 a.m. this morning, and it's not final complete, but there is a free gift that I want to give to people here.
We like swag.
Well, it's not really swag because then it's a little hard to mail those.
Swag.
Yeah, intellectual swag. We have a wonderful tool that Lisa and I have used to walk through our plan, our purpose, our focus in the future. And it's one of the things that I work with in the program we're launching It's an evolution of a product, but it's called Finding Success, Creating Your Life Impact Now.
I like
And
that.
it's a nice 8 hour, it's probably 7 hours, but there's breaks and stuff in there. But it's a program to take you from your departure point to your arrival point. It's uncovering the beliefs, the focus, the things that are blocking you or you're ignoring, the relationships you need to invest more in. It's identifying all those and creating that plan. But, plan's only good as much as it's written on the paper and we actually put it into place in the class, in the program.
So y'all here, he's giving you like 8 hours of coaching, mind building, mastering, vision setting, as a thank you for just being part of his world. So do you want them to email you? Is there a link, a landing page?
Yeah. They can drop me a personal message or just put a comment on here on our feed today and well, get back to them. But it's a tool that we use, and while it's not the 8 hour version, so we don't want to just, oh no, 8 hours, huh? It's a
It's
nice,
the niblet.
yeah, it's a 3 page, really introspective moment to take a look at where you are right now and what you hope to accomplish.
Y'all need to drop like I please Joe intellectual slag me or intellectual swag me or something to that effect in the comments because we're starting fourth quarter, we're gearing up towards the new year. Now is a really good time to say, you know what, I need a GPS check-in. I need to like see where I'm at, what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, where I want to be. This is a quick tool for me to get that commitment of time and thought on a piece of paper where when I finish, I can be like, all right, I know where I'm at. I know where I need to go next. Boom. So do it. I'm going to do it because I always love doing that. It's kind of like, back in the day when we see Charles says swag me. See, we just started a whole new thing. Swag me, Joe. Back in the day, my sisters had Cosmo magazines, and I always took the quiz. I know what my best color tone is. I prefer nowadays doing things like this, so I will definitely jump in and do that. Later today, I'll be asking you for my swag me. But if you want Joe's swag me, just send him a swag me. We'll check it. We'll figure out a way. If you get missed, call Lisa and tell him that Joe ignored me. Tell him to swag me, and we'll get it all taken care of. Joe, I want to thank you for being my Fun Friend Friday today. I can't believe we didn't put it off. We just never got to it. I think the timing is perfect. I hope you have a backup tree just in case, because that would be far too much pressure for me. A side note, when my son was little, he fell in love with this particular teddy bear and we lost it for an hour. I got on Google, found the matching teddy bear, ordered it. It's still in the attic because I thought if ever Teddy shows up missing, we can say, oh no, he just went to the spa and got a facelift and bring out new Teddy. So I'm just saying you might want to have a tree like hidden at the office or over at a friend's house that you're tending you can swap out. But I know you and Lisa are destined for a long life of love and excitement and adventure. And that tree is going to probably take over the house someday. So you don't need it. You got it. You got it covered, my friend.
Hey, Eric, one more thing, because I love bonuses. I love the pour into people. There's another bonus. If you want the program, $100 scholarship that goes along with it because people watch this.
Swag me and coupon me. I love that. It's like getting the pizza and a discount on the sodas and ice creams and other things. You guys really don't wait until January 1st or the start of the year or February or April to get motivated on your business. A lot of my coaching clients, we're sitting down and doing business plan and your strategy now because we know what the law of momentum looks like and we're going to be in full production growth by January 1st, not trying to figure it out. So what Joe is offering you is a tool to get ahead of the masses and get into your dream and your life of success sooner. So Rajan says swag me. Barbara says swag me. I didn't see other people, but I'm sure there's some other swag me's. And so, Joe, if you and I need to connect offline, I'll get you those as well. But you got Lisa there, so she's already got it. And Charles says, "Coupon me, baby."
Yep.
See, we went Detroit on him. Swag me, coupon me, baby. Well, once again, Joe, thank you so much. I have to hit our magic music. And thank you for being a friend. I appreciate it. I appreciate all that you gave to us today, both in wisdom and swag and coupons. And yeah, as Diane says, what a deal. I know. When Diane from the Midwest, and she's a very conservative, when she says it's a deal, it's got to be a mad kind of deal. So you struck a note with her. And as Diane said, today's the day I'll write a personal note to somebody and leave it where they can obviously receive it and do that. I love handwritten notes. It just shows a little extra intention. So I appreciate you. Give my best to Lisa. I know she's exhausted and she probably needs a double pumpkin spice latte gingerbread cookie thing. Get her a cake pop as a thank you. Thank you again. And thank you, everybody. We'll be back Monday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern for Success Life. Until then, go out and live your life of success. Make today the day you lead. All right. Bye-bye. Bye, Joe.
As James Taylor said, you got a friend.
You got a friend. Oh, I should change up our music. Don't give me too much work, though. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks all.